The food line crawls forward through the decaying corridors of Kesson Station. Nobody speaks. Nobody smiles. Nobody cares. Then a small alien girl tugs on a human's coat and asks a question so shocking that it freezes him in place. "Human, are you single?" The exhausted man blinks. The girl points toward a violet-skinned woman sitting alone among broken crates. "My mom is really kind." A pause. "You have to marry her." The entire audience immediately wants to know, who is this child? Why would she ask that? What happened to her mother? And why did she choose this human? The underdog human. Introduce Willie. Not a hero, not a soldier, not a captain, just a lonely maintenance worker surviving one day at a time. He keeps his head down, avoids crowds, avoids relationships, avoids pain. The station sees him as insignificant. Nobody notices him. Nobody expects anything from him, especially not a future. Yet the audience quickly senses something different. Unlike everyone else on the station, Willie still notices suffering, even when he wishes he didn't. The broken alien mother. Willie follows the child's gaze. There he sees Rava. The woman looks less like a person and more like someone slowly disappearing. Her clothes are worn. Her posture is defeated. Her eyes never leave the floor. Yet something feels wrong. This isn't ordinary poverty. This is the aftermath of tragedy. The audience begins asking, who was she before this? What destroyed her? Why does she seem so ashamed? Why won't she even look up? The child's mission. Liry becomes the emotional engine of the story. Unlike her mother, she refuses to surrender. She studies Willie, judges him, tests him. She notices things nobody else notices. When Willie doesn't immediately walk away, she takes it as a victory. When he returns with food, she notices. When he returns again, she notices that too. To Liry, every visit is proof. Proof that maybe this human is different. Proof that maybe her mother doesn't have to be alone forever. The first mystery. The next day, Willie finds something unexpected. The teacup he left behind has been cleaned. Carefully, respectfully. Beside it sits a folded note. Not a thank you. Not a request. Not a plea for help. Instead, elegant alien handwriting comments on Liry's grammar. The audience immediately realizes. This woman is educated, refined, intelligent, someone important. The mystery deepens. How does a woman capable of writing ancient ceremonial calligraphy end up homeless on a forgotten station? What happened to her life? Emotional escalation. Willie begins returning every day. Tea becomes routine, then food, then conversation. Not with Rava, with Liry, because Rava never speaks, never asks for anything, never begs. That silence becomes more powerful than any dialogue. The audience slowly understands. Rava isn't refusing help because she's proud. She's refusing help because she's broken. And somehow that hurts even more. The human difference. Most station residents avoid the pair. Some pity them. Some ignore them. Some mock them. Willie simply sits nearby. He doesn't demand gratitude. He doesn't expect affection. He doesn't try to rescue anyone. He just shows up. Again, and again, and again. This becomes the first glimpse of humanity's hidden strength. Persistence through compassion. Ending sequence. One evening, Willie leaves another meal. As he walks away, Liry watches him. Then she says the line that changes everything. "She likes you." Willie freezes. Behind him, Rava remains silent. But for the first time, she doesn't look away. For the first time, she watches him leave. Not as a stranger, not as a passerby, but as someone who might stay. Final cliffhanger. The camera lingers on the mysterious alien woman. A woman who refuses to speak. A woman who writes beautiful notes. A woman clearly hiding a devastating past. As Willie walks into the darkness of the station, one question dominates the audience's mind. Who was Rava before the galaxy broke her? For 2 days, Willie doesn't return. He tells himself he's busy. Work, repairs, deadlines, excuses. But deep down, he's running from something far more dangerous. Hope. Because for the first time in years, he actually cares what happens to someone. And that terrifies him. When he finally returns to Market Ring 7, he immediately notices something is wrong. Liry isn't smiling. Rava looks even thinner. And the first words out of the little girl's mouth hit harder than any weapon. "You were gone." A pause. "She thought she scared you away." The first crack in the wall. Willie realizes something important. His presence matters. Not because he brings food. Not because he brings tea. Because he comes back. Most people on Kesson Station leave. Promises leave. Friends leave. Families leave. Help leaves. But showing up again and again, that is rare. Especially for people like Rava. People the galaxy has already discarded. Discovering the real Rava. Liry slowly begins revealing pieces of her mother's past. Not all at once. Small fragments. Like broken pieces of a shattered mirror. The audience learns. Rava was once a singer. Not an entertainer. Not a performer. Something far more important. Among the Liry, songs preserve history. Songs preserve identity. Songs preserve family. Songs preserve entire civilizations. A Liry singer isn't merely an artist. They're a living archive. A guardian of memory. And Rava was one of them. The revelation shocks Willie. Because the woman sitting among crates and scraps was once someone respected. Someone admired. Someone important. The galaxy's cruelty. Then comes the next revelation. The station banned her singing. Not because it was dangerous. Not because it violated safety regulations. Because people complained. Her songs reminded them of sadness. So authorities silenced her. One administrative decision. One signature. One regulation. And a piece of an entire culture disappeared. For the audience, the villain becomes clear. Not a monster. Not a warlord. A system. A society that treats refugees like inconveniences. Willie's secret pain. For the first time, Willie shares part of his own story. He tells Liry about growing up in foster systems. Being moved from home to home. Never staying long enough to belong anywhere. Never trusting permanence. Never trusting people. The audience realizes something important. Willie and Rava are mirrors. Both lost their homes. Both lost their identities. Both learned that survival often means shutting parts of yourself away. The difference? Willie hid behind isolation. Rava hid behind silence. The human advantage emerges. Liry notices something no one else sees. Every day Willie returns. No expectations. No demands. No conditions. He never pressures Rava to speak. Never forces gratitude. Never asks for repayment. He simply waits. Patiently. Consistently. The audience begins seeing humanity's true strength. Empathy without reward. Kindness without guarantees. Loyalty before trust is earned. The tragedy revealed. One night Liry finally reveals the wound at the center of everything. Her father. Rava's husband. Vaughn. The audience learns he died during their escape. A transport disaster. A choice. Someone had to be left behind. Vaughn chose to save them. Since that day, Rava has carried two impossible burdens. The grief of losing him, and the guilt of surviving him. Suddenly everything makes sense. Why she stopped singing. Why she stopped speaking. Why she stopped living. Part of her believes happiness would be a betrayal. The emotional turning point. Willie brings something precious. Not expensive. Not powerful. A recording. Ancient Liry winter hymns. Songs from home. Songs Rava thought she would never hear again. He leaves them beside her without asking for anything. Without even staying to watch. Because by now he understands. Healing cannot be forced. Only offered. The mystery deepens. That night Rava listens. Alone. For the first time in years. The music awakens memories she buried to survive. Memories of home. Of laughter. Of love. Of Vaughn. The audience feels the emotional pressure building. Something is changing inside her. Something long dead is beginning to wake up. Ending sequence. Late that night Willie prepares to leave. The station corridors are silent. The lights are dim. Everything feels still. Then it happens. A sound. Barely audible. A single word. The first word Rava has spoken in years. Vaughn. Her husband's name. Nothing more. Nothing less. Yet it changes everything. Because silence has finally broken. The woman everyone believed was gone is still there. Still fighting. Still grieving. Still alive. Final cliffhanger. Willie freezes. His heart pounds. Behind him, Rava sits hidden in darkness. For the first time, she has spoken. For the first time, she has reached toward the world again. And the audience is left with one burning question. If she can say his name, what else is she finally ready to say? One word. That was all it took. Not a speech. Not a confession. Not a declaration. Just a single name whispered into the darkness. Vaughn. For most people, it would mean nothing. For Willie, it meant everything. Because it proved something he had suspected from the very beginning. Rava wasn't gone. She was trapped. And now, for the first time in years, the walls around her heart had cracked. The question was no longer whether she could heal. The question was whether she would allow herself to. The return of a voice. The next morning, Willie arrives expecting silence. Instead, he hears something impossible. A voice. Soft, fragile, and used, but unmistakably hers. I heard the hymns. Rava's words are rough from years of disuse. Every syllable sounds like it has traveled 1,000 miles to reach him. Yet she keeps speaking. Not much. Only a few sentences. But enough. Enough to send a surge of hope through the audience. Enough to prove that healing has finally begun. The rebirth of identity. As days pass, Willie helps Rava reconnect with pieces of herself. Not through grand gestures. Through small things. A traditional Liry shirt. Ancient songs. Old customs. Forgotten memories. Every item becomes a bridge leading her back toward the woman she used to be. For years she survived by becoming invisible. Now she is slowly becoming visible again. And that terrifies her. Because visibility means vulnerability. Visibility means caring. Visibility means risking loss once more. The real battle. The audience expects poverty to be the enemy. It isn't. They expect the station authorities to be the enemy. They aren't. The true enemy is guilt. A guilt so powerful it has controlled Rava's life for years. Every time she smiles, she remembers Vaughn. Every time she feels happiness, she feels disloyal. Every time she imagines a future, she hears a voice asking, "Why do you deserve one when he didn't get one?" This is the prison she cannot escape, because it exists entirely inside her. The major twist. One evening, Rava finally reveals the truth. She doesn't believe she survived. Not really. She believes Vaughn sacrificed himself, and she merely continued breathing afterward. In her mind, her life ended that day too. Everything since then has been obligation, responsibility, endurance, nothing more. The revelation changes everything. The audience realizes. Rava never stopped loving Vaughn. She stopped loving herself. The human strength revealed. Most species in the galaxy respect power. Humans respect endurance. Most species admire victory. Humans admire survival. Most species see broken people and move on. Humans see broken people and stay. That is Willie's gift. Not strength. Not wealth. Not influence. Presence. He remains. Every day. Every conversation. Every silence. He remains. And slowly Rava begins to understand something she never expected. She doesn't have to earn his kindness. The emotional high point. One evening, sitting together beneath the dim station lights, Rava asks a question she has been terrified to hear answered. "What do you see when you look at me?" The audience holds its breath. Because this is the moment everything depends on. Willie could say beautiful. He could say strong. He could say brave. Instead, he tells her the truth. "I see someone who survived more than she should have." Silence. Then, "I see someone who never stopped protecting the people she loves." Tears fill Rava's eyes. Not because of the compliment. Because for the first time in years, someone sees her. Not the refugee. Not the widow. Not the burden. Her. The child who started it all. Liry watches everything. Every glance. Every smile. Every awkward conversation. And because she is Liry, she finally grows tired of waiting. One afternoon, she looks directly at both of them and announces, "You're going to kiss her." The statement hits like a meteor. Neither adult knows how to respond. Liry simply shrugs. To her, the outcome has been obvious for weeks. Then she casually walks away, leaving both of them alone. Exactly as planned. The breaking point. The silence between Willie and Rava feels different now. No longer cautious. No longer fearful. Only honest. Rava looks at him. Really looks at him. The human who kept coming back. The human who never asked for anything. The human who sat beside her when she had nothing left to offer. Slowly she reaches for his hand. His heart pounds. The audience feels every second stretch. She lifts his hand carefully, gently, then places it against her cheek. A simple gesture, yet more intimate than any declaration, more powerful than any speech. Because it is trust, pure trust. The first kiss. Neither rushes, neither pushes, neither fears. Years of loneliness, years of grief, years of survival, all lead to this moment. Their first kiss is not passionate. It is not dramatic. It is earned. A promise spoken without words. A quiet agreement that maybe the future doesn't have to look like the past. When they finally pull apart, neither looks away. For the first time, hope stands openly between them, and neither runs from it. Ending sequence. The station outside remains unchanged. Still crowded. Still harsh. Still indifferent. But inside that small corner of Kesson Station, everything has changed. The widow has spoken. The survivor has smiled. The lonely man has opened his heart. And the child who refused to give up on either of them has finally seen her impossible dream begin to come true. Yet one final challenge remains. Love is one thing. Building a life is another. Final cliffhanger. As they sit together, closer than ever before, Willie quietly makes a decision. A decision that could change all of their lives. A decision that carries risk, responsibility, commitment. The next morning, he intends to file sponsorship papers. Not for charity, not for obligation, for family. And as the audience realizes what that means, one question dominates their thoughts. Will Rava accept a future she never believed she deserved? For years, Rava survived. Now she faced something far more frightening. Living, not surviving, not enduring, not simply making it through another day. Living. Because love had returned. Hope had returned. And for the first time since Vaughn's death, the future stood before her with open arms. The question was, would she be brave enough to accept it? The decision. The morning after their first kiss feels strangely ordinary. The station still groans. The market still buzzes. The galaxy remains indifferent. Yet everything feels different. Because Willie has made a choice. No more uncertainty. No more halfway measures. He wants them permanently. Not as strangers sharing meals. Not as refugees receiving help. Not as temporary companions. As family. When he finally speaks the words aloud, Rava freezes. I want to sponsor you. The room falls silent. Even Liry stops moving. Because everyone understands what those words truly mean. Commitment. Responsibility. Forever. The final fear. Rava wants to say yes. But fear rises immediately. The same fear that has ruled her life since Vaughn died. What if I lose this too? The audience feels the weight of that question. Because that is what trauma does. It convinces people that happiness is temporary. That love is fragile. That safety is borrowed. Rava isn't afraid of loving Willie. She's afraid of surviving another loss. The human answer. Willie doesn't make promises he can't keep. He doesn't swear they'll never suffer. He doesn't claim everything will be perfect. Instead, he gives the most human answer possible. I'm not going anywhere. Simple. Honest. Real. Because humans do not defeat fear by pretending danger doesn't exist. Humans defeat fear by moving forward anyway. That is the lesson Rava has spent years forgetting. And Willie has spent months quietly teaching. The official choice. The sponsorship application becomes the story's symbolic battlefield. No explosions. No armies. No villains with weapons. Only 3 people standing before a government terminal. Yet emotionally, the stakes have never been higher. The clerk barely looks up. To him, it's paperwork. To them, it's a new life. Willie signs first. Without hesitation, Rava stares at the document. The audience remembers everything she has endured. The loss. The silence. The hunger. The loneliness. Then her hand steadies. And she signs. For the first time in years, she chooses tomorrow. Liry immediately scribbles her own name across the bottom. Neither adult can stop laughing. And just like that, they become a family. The massive payoff. The move into their new housing unit feels like entering another world. Not luxurious. Not grand. Just safe. A door that locks. A heater that mostly works. A small window overlooking the station gardens. For most citizens, it would be ordinary. For them, it is paradise. Every object carries emotional weight. A folded scarf. A clean blanket. 3 cups instead of 1. 3 plates instead of 2. 3 lives becoming 1. The audience finally receives what they have been waiting for since part 1. The lonely human is no longer alone. The grieving widow is no longer abandoned. The child no longer has to save her mother by herself. The true victory. Weeks pass, then months. Slowly the impossible happens. Rava begins singing again. At first only in private. Quiet melodies while cooking. Soft hymns while cleaning. Fragments of songs she thought had died forever. Each note feels like a victory. Because every song is proof that she survived without losing herself. The station that once silenced her now echoes with her voice again. Not because anyone gave permission. Because she no longer needs it. The legacy of Vaughn. One evening Rava finally speaks openly about her husband. Not through tears. Not through guilt. Through gratitude. She realizes something that changes everything. Vaughn did not sacrifice himself so she could stop living. He sacrificed himself so she could continue. The revelation hits with enormous emotional force. For years, she believed moving forward was betrayal. Now she understands. Moving forward is how she honors him. The audience receives the final emotional release they have been waiting for. The wound that began the story finally starts to heal. The galaxy learns about humans. Through alien eyes, Willie becomes something extraordinary. Not because he defeated an enemy. Not because he gained power. Because he stayed. The station has seen wealthy traders, military heroes, political officials. Yet none of them changed a life the way one ordinary human did. The lesson spreads quietly. Humans are strange. They adopt people who aren't theirs. They fight battles no one sees. They repair things everyone else throws away. And somehow, they call that normal. To the galaxy, that is astonishing. The final reward. One morning over breakfast, Liry announces, "I want a little brother." Both adults nearly choke. The audience laughs. The tension breaks. The future suddenly feels real. Not survival. Not recovery. A future. Plans. Dreams. Possibilities. The very things trauma once stole from them. Emotional resolution. That night, as the station lights dim, the family sits together in peaceful silence. No fear. No hunger. No loneliness. Only warmth. Only belonging. Only home. Rava rests her head on Willie's shoulder. Liry curls beside them. Outside the window, the artificial gardens glow softly beneath the station lights. Inside, something even brighter has taken root. A family, not built by blood, not built by species, built by choice, built by kindness, built by love. Humanity's legacy. The galaxy often believes greatness comes from power. Humans know better. Greatness comes from showing up. Again, and again, and again, until someone remembers they are worth saving. Willie never conquered worlds, never commanded fleets, never became famous. Yet he accomplished something far rarer. He gave hope back to people who had lost it, and in doing so, changed an entire future. Final message. A frightened alien child once asked a lonely human an impossible question. "Human, are you single?" The galaxy would later remember the answer, not because of what Willie said, but because of what he did. He stayed. And sometimes, that is the most heroic thing a human can do.